Join us today. We're pleased to welcome now Shuwaski Young, former candidate for Mississippi Secretary of State. Hey, Shuwaski, how you doing, man?
Good morning. How are you, good sir?
Doing fantastic. So, first, talk about this op-ed you recently authored. I think was published locally in the Clarion Ledger. What was the message there?
Well, the message was Mississippi's black community should should embrace Republican policies. And that particular op-ed showed up in the Clarion Ledger, and I was really happy to be interviewed by my hometown paper, the Neshoba County Democrat, as well as it got picked up in, I believe, the Commercial Dispatch up in Columbus and also Starkville. So it went pretty widespread. But in that particular article, I talked about why I thought the Republican policies was best for Mississippi's black community, and also address, any skepticism out there and whether or not people really believe that I'm now a Republican. And I addressed that information and talked about it extensively.
So the fact that you changed parties, how has that been right? How has that been received by the Democrats in the state?
Well, pretty touch and go. I've had private conversations with people, both over the phone and also in person at other places I've been around the state, and ran into a few Democrats that said that, hey, man, we fully support you. Whatever it takes for you to, be able to get, your message out and be able to sleep at night. We really support you and we trust you. And for other folks, it has been, kind of vitriolic, as one would imagine. And I totally understand both sides.
Gotcha. So what were your primary reasons, Shuwaski, for changing parties?
Well, for me, it was always about staying true to Mississippi values, staying true to the way in which I was raised, also growing and evolving in my own political background throughout the years, and understanding at this particular point where we are now that the Democratic Party had basically just went too far left. And it was in a place to where I just didn't recognize it anymore. Look, I believe that, strong values within families are important. I believe that for us to have traditional values are important for the black community, is also the state as a whole. And I saw that best fit in the Republican Party. And I also saw from an economic standpoint, which I'm very keen on, that would be best in the Republican Party as well, too.
Do you feel like the Democrat Party has abandoned those, what you describe as traditional values?
Well, I think that there's a vast difference in what the Mississippi Democratic Party in Mississippi um, wants to stand for, basically, against what the National Party actually stands for. Look, I don't believe that folks who are in the Democratic Party actually believe in abortion on the Hill, abortion on demand. I don't believe those folks actually truly believe that. I think those are National Party efforts that they choose to hold. And if that's the particular case, then they do believe in it. But that's not how we were raised in Mississippi. That's not what most folks believe and think when they go to church and also sit around the dinner tables at home. I believe that we also know and feel that, we want lower taxes. We want a stronger military. We want better schools, and we want to have those particular choices to be able to do so. And that the Republican Party best represents those particular values, not the Democratic Party. It's just, I think that there has been a long stronghold of loyalty within the Democratic Party, especially with black folks in Mississippi, to be part of the Democratic Party, regardless of whether or not those particular policies are actually pushing the community forward or the state forward as a whole.
Hmm. Do you think, Shuwaski, having been a member of the Democrat Party, and let's be honest there, that is
Sure.
is mostly comprised of black Mississippians? It seems like we've almost gotten to the point. That's not to say there aren't black Republicans. You're an example of one of them, that there aren't white Democrats. But in general, it kind of falls down the lines of race. The Democrats in general in Mississippi are African American, and it's the white people that comprise mostly the Republican Party. If you look at, as you know, our legislature, I think we
Sure.
have, what, 2 white Democrats, I think, and 1 or 2 black Republicans. So if you just look at how our legislature is divided, it's pretty much along racial lines.
Well,
Is there just something about that what attracts the black folks to the Democrat Party?
Well, look, I think it's more so goes along about going back into the civil rights movement and how that shift actually happened post 1960s, and also an allegiance to the party. Look, it's no particular secret that the Mississippi Black community has been loyal to the Democratic Party, and also has believed that the Democratic Party best serves the African American community, despite, you know, promises of prosperity and also opportunity not being actually met throughout the actual times in which the state has been going forward for working class families. Look, I also talked about how, you know, there are Democratic leaders out there like Benny Thompson that has represented the particular party and also the state for over 2 decades and has really tried to make a difference. Now, I'm not, you know, one to say that despite his service, you know, to the American people and also the state, I think that those particular policies that has been represented has not moved us forward in a way to which we want to actually see from a level of poverty reduction, a level of educational attainment. I think that those things are more so put forth with we have self-sufficiency within families, self-sufficiency within self, and capitalize on our American dream opportunities.
Gotcha. So we've got the 2025 legislative session kicking off, getting
Oh boy.
underway tomorrow. What do you expect, and then what would you like to see get done?
Well, I know for one thing, I know that Senator Branding will be sworn in tomorrow as a new member of the Supreme Court at the Capitol. I know that's going to be one thing that she gets started off, and also her seat will be opening up. But more so, of course, they'll be gaveling again tomorrow and everything like that. But I think from a comprehensive overview standpoint, it's going to be about education and also tax reform are going to be really big issues that this particular legislative session is going to be talking about. And also, of course, they're going to be going forward with a 90-day session. Look, this whole entire new school formula that's being represented is a significant improvement. I think for the state, it's being fully funded. I think for the first time in 2 decades, I think it's a stark contrast within the old formula. I think it gives an opportunity for people to see their tax money go in a way that's going to improve schools and improve money for teachers. So I'm looking forward to see what happens with the new school formula being kind of revamped a little bit. School choice, of course, that's going to be another key component that's going to be really big within this particular legislative session. And how actually people have an opportunity to make a choice about where their kids go to school, what particular funding out there from a state standpoint could be helpful to students looking to go into neighboring districts or even private schools. I think that's going to be really interesting. And also, of course, with the tax reform, that's going to be huge, of course, when we talk about the grocery tax or also the elimination of a state income tax or a reduction in the grocery tax. I think all those issues are going to be huge for this particular legislative session.
Do you have any particular positions on any of those, Shuwaski? Do you align one way or another? Let's take the school choice as an issue. Where do you stand on that?
Well, for me, I think that it really is about how we can actually offer parents an opportunity for their kids to be able to go to a school that's going to improve their likelihood of getting a better education. I think some of the specifics that are on the table that has to be clear is how do we give parents more options and what education their kids are going to receive. So, I think for example, we talk about private school funding and whether or not some state funds can be used to follow those kids into private schools. I think that's something we may have to actually entertain, especially when we
Yeah,
see some districts around the state that aren't performing as well as others.
yeah. What about tax reform? Where do you stand on that?
Well, if that's going to be a big one, I think eliminating the state income tax is probably the way to go. I agree with the governor on that particular issue. I think that the way in which we go about it, is going to be important. I listened to much of what Jason White had to say on the Gallo show this morning about the incremental rollout, so to speak, over 6 to 8 to 10 years, not doing it just immediate time right now and actually shocking the system like that. I think that may be
Hmm.
a responsible way to go. I think if we can lower the price of grocery tax in the actual state of Mississippi, I think that's a good thing. Now, how we actually replace the revenue from not having a state income tax and also lowering the
Yeah,
grocery tax, that's where the real work is going to actually take place in those committees to be able to get a bill out that's going to be able to pass on the House and Senate floor.
interesting. Well, you're right. I think it's going to be an interesting session. Before we get out of here, any thoughts about Medicaid expansion? Where do you stand on that?
Look, I think that last year in the 2024 legislative session, they really tackled a lot of issues. Some would probably say they bit off a little bit more than they could chew and then get some of the things passed that they want to get passed. But they've had some time off in the session, the speaker has talked about. And I think that as they move forward, Medicaid expansion will be a major issue that has to take place. I think a work requirement is one of which we need to be able to look at. And how we can make sure that people who are on the Medicaid rolls should actually be on the Medicaid rolls. And those are going to
Gotcha.
have to be some hard choices and conservatives in place to get that done.
Gotcha. Shuwaski, good to talk to you. Appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon as the legislature gets going. Thanks a lot.
Looking forward to it. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, man. You too. We're coming right back in the Element